assume around 4:50. I scrolled down and saw pictures of her husband and her 2-year-old with her. He wasn't tagged, so he probably doesn't have an Instagram. Not a big deal. So I scrolled down more. Then, I saw a picture of her. Except that she was in a Hooters uniform. I thought to myself that it's normal for people to have 2 jobs. But this picture was very odd. It was one of those pictures you could slide right and look at more pictures. The next picture was with a kid that looked really, really familiar. I then saw a bit of his shirt. I couldn't tell what was really on it, but I saw that it had my high school's colors. I then instantly realized who it was. It was the junior that was the captain of the varsity football team. I was so curious, so I slid to the next picture. He was grabbing her ass while hugging her, and she was looking up at him like he was her husband. I was so shook I had to take a screenshot. I keep scrolling through her Instagram, and it's just her and this kid. Then, I found the perfect picture. She was kissing him, and it was definitely at a house party. I knew what I had to do. I had to screenshot this. Then, I quickly went on Facebook. I found pictures of her husband, and he was tagged. I knew his name now, so I looked him up. He lived at the same address as her, so I had to do this during school. I found out where he worked, and so I quickly printed out the pictures that I found. This was the best thing ever. I also planned to email the pictures to the school. She shouldn't suspend people for a stupid reason, and she shouldn't be kissing her students. I went to sleep knowing that this was going to work. I woke up between 9 and 10 that day, and I was ready for this. I grabbed my bike and biked the 6 miles to get to their house across the city. I'm on the varsity soccer team, so I'm quite in shape. This took me about 20 minutes, and when I got there, I saw his car in the driveway. Great, he didn't leave for work yet. I simply just put the pictures in their mailbox, knocked on the door, and biked off as quickly as I could. I had to wait until at least 7 o'clock to email the school. I made an entirely new email address and emailed it around 6:30 because I couldn't wait. They emailed back almost right away, and they said they'll deal with it right away. Since today was my last day of being suspended, I was ready to go back to school tomorrow. The aftermath. I woke up in the morning really happy and excited. I couldn't wait to see what was going to unfold. During our lunch, the assistant principal, along with a few teachers, walk around monitoring the lunch. I then see the principal, along with 2 police officers, pull the assistant principal and the students out. The whole lunchroom gets quiet, and many people are recording. I smirked really openly when I saw this happen. I asked one of the monitors to get me a bathroom pass just so I could hear what was going on. He told me I couldn't go out right now as something is going on. I was kind of sad about this, but also happy. I knew what was going on, but I couldn't tell anyone. Now some stuff happened in the next few days, but I'll just sum it up. The first day after. The day after this happened, she didn't show up, but the student did. I asked him what happened, but he wouldn't say. All I know is that he wasn't in trouble. That made me glad because he didn't have a reason to be in trouble, and that wasn't my goal. 5 days after. Since it was a 4-day weekend that week, as we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off, we came back to school on a Tuesday. I noticed her office was empty. I was really stunned she got fired, so I looked up on our state's court case search. There was already one case, and it was hers. She had caused child 13 to 18 to view sex activity, as the charges pressed against her. 3 weeks later, the school wanted to hide this, so of course no news came out. But a new case has opened up, her divorce case. I saw this and I instantly knew I succeeded. She should not have ever been an assistant principal, as she was extremely hateful and biased and even a perv. Now she's serving 10 months in prison, and I don't feel bad for her at all. This one's titled, They Jumped the Guy While on a Date and Put Him in the Hospital for Weeks. He and his friends later set the same situation up, and did it to them, even worse. My dad told me this one, and I wanted to share it here. He grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana. My grandfather worked with the father of the original guy who got jumped in the story, and told him and my dad about it. It was 1970, and the guys involved here were in their early 20s. Oh, and I have nothing against rednecks. People would even consider me one before calling me a hippie. They just happen to be the bad guys here. There was a popular drive-in where they lived. There was also a group of rednecks who'd run anyone off from there who they didn't want to be there. Hippies were a big target. Police didn't ever do anything. They weren't known for being untrustworthy at this time. Also, one cop was the father of the rednecks. The hippie who got jumped thought it'd be safe to take his date on a Saturday afternoon. Not long after pulling in his van, a truck parked behind him, blocking them in. They dragged him out and beat him badly and told him to never come back. He ended up in the hospital with broken bones and a bad bruising for several weeks. His girlfriend told their friend group, which consisted of a lot of other hippies, what happened. When he started getting better, they started talking payback. When he was out of the hospital, he took his girlfriend back to the drive-in the same van, hoping they'd show up. They did. They parked behind him again to block him in. Walking from the truck to his van, they were hollering how they told him not to come back. And since he did it again, the beating was gonna be worse this time. What they didn't expect was the side door to open, and more than 10 hippies that had piled in there to get out with baseball bats and metal pipes. They proceeded to beat on these rednecks, a real beating. None of them died, but they did all end up in the hospital with far worse injuries than the original guy. He learned that some of the injuries ranged from broken noses, broken ribs, severe head injuries, internal bleeding. They really got him. As satisfying as the revenge aspect is, I found it just as satisfying that hippies didn't get into any trouble, since the rednecks who started it had been doing it to others too. Also, just as satisfying is the rednecks didn't ever mess with anyone at that drive-in ever again. Hey friends, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Reddit Nuclear Revenge. If you enjoyed the stories in this video,
Serious, what revenge of yours hit the victim way worse than you thought it would, to the point you said maybe I shouldn't have done that? I was dating this girl and my friend saw her around town a few times, and humiliated her in an effort to embarrass me. I told him to stop bothering her, but he did it again. That night I convinced him to try getting back together with his wildly insane and manipulative ex that he hadn't spoken to in years, thinking that he would just humiliate himself by trying. Well, they banged and got back together for a while, and had a baby. Now they were terrible single parents. My friends and I used to pull a lot of pranks on each other growing up, and about 10 years ago I was helping my buddy set up a new business. He was ordering business cards and the company he was going through was offering I think 500 or so free with a large order, so we decided to prank our other friend. We made business cards with his name, phone number, home address, and had his job title as professional creep with the slogan, "If I'm creepin', you ain't sleepin'." We passed these cards out all over town. He was getting really harassing phone calls for a while and couldn't figure out why. After about 2 years he found one of the cards on a random fridge at a party and put 2 and 2 together. He was pissed and is still getting random calls 10 years later. I feel really bad about that one. My brother and cousins were walking home from school. Well, my brother and I were walking and my cousins were on bikes. They kept circling us and making fun of us because we didn't have bikes. One of my cousins then spit on me. Out of reflex, I blasted her with my trumpet case and she went flying. Landed on the concrete and broke her arm. I felt awful. It was the first and last time I ever hit a girl. My family believed every word of the story. Knew this cousin was always a total bitch to me, and largely believed she had it coming. I still felt awful though. When I was in 5th grade, my teacher gave out a shit ton of homework one day, so I got the whole class to help me write a letter to the principal. She found out and cried and shit. I felt really horrible because she was just trying to get us ready for a test coming up. Oh, I have one for this. My grandpa was a bit old school and gave me prison yard advice for my first week of school. He said, "If anyone picks on you, just deal with them right then. Don't take it." First week of kindergarten, a grade 1 kid was pushing me around, not letting me go back to class. I pushed him down against a fence and kicked him in the face 3 or 4 times, splitting his nose. Almost got kicked out of school, until they found out my grandpa